In May 2020, a 47-year-old woman, Patricia Ripley, told authorities that two black men had robbed her and that they took her 9-year-old son, Alejandro. Alejandro was autistic and nonverbal, and authorities found his body in a canal the next day. Alejandro died from drowning, and what authorities soon discovered, what was caught on a home surveillance camera in an area around 103rd Avenue and Kendall Drive at a lake behind an apartment complex. What the home surveillance showed was Patricia Riley walking with Alejandro toward the lake. She's holding his hand. Some reports say that she stroked his hair a couple of times, and she pushed him into that lake, and she ran away. Witnesses said that she ran away screaming. Well, the lake was behind an apartment complex, like I stated earlier. And one of the residents, a man, came out and he ran over to the lake with Patricia, and he got in and he saved Alejandro's life. Initially, I wondered how Patricia was able to leave that area with Alejandro. And the only thing that I can figure is the amount of time between Patricia pushing Alejandro in the lake, running away screaming, and the resident saving his life was a very, very short amount of time. And according to one of the witnesses, once Alejandro was out of the lake, Patricia left very, very quickly with him. According to authorities, it was just an hour later that Patricia drowned Alejandro in the canal where his body was found. So it's just a guess, but I'm thinking between the residents of the apartment complex and the witnesses trying to figure out what they had just seen and maybe calling the authorities, that the authorities didn't find out about this and make it to the scene in time to keep Patricia from leaving with Alejandro. And according to authorities, it was only an hour later that she drowned Alejandro in a canal. So the attempted murder is for Patricia's unsuccessful attempt at drowning Alejandro when the resident of the apartment complex was able to save his life. And of course, the murder charge is because just later that same evening, Patricia was successful in murdering her son. Florida is seeking the death penalty. Patricia Ripley has pled not guilty, and according to some of the reports that I read, that not guilty plea was entered because the state and the defense could not agree on a plea deal for Patricia Ripley. Today, there was a hearing scheduled, and for some unknown reason, it was pushed back for a few days. Now, it could just be that the docket is overflowing and that the court is behind, but I really have to wonder what's going on because Patricia Ripley was arrested in 2020. Ripley is being held without bond, and if you're interested, her interrogation is available on YouTube. Ripley describes a lot of hardships that she was having with her son's diagnosis. And with what Patricia Ripley described as her son not being able to stay in school, as her seeming like his one and only caregiver, the multitude of doctor's appointments and therapists, is Patricia Ripley going to argue some sort of diminished mental capacity? It's hard to have sympathy or any type of empathy for a parent who murders their own child and then goes on to blame the crime on two black men. But Florida juries are unpredictable. When she recanted, Patricia Ripley admitted to police that she drowned her son, basically. She told them that he's in a better place. There are millions of parents out here who are dealing with children who have special needs, children who have mental and physical disabilities, and I do wonder how much help Patricia Ripley had from her husband in caring for Alejandro. And as much as I can appreciate how hard it was for her to care for her son, she had options, and Patricia Ripley chose the most lethal option. She chose to end her son's life. She did it in a cold-blooded manner. I believe that it was planned and premeditated. To quote a famous line from the closing arguments of the infamous murder case of Dr. Jeffrey MacDonald, if you feel any sympathy, feel sympathy for Alejandro. And if you light a candle for anyone, light one for Alejandro. As usual, I'd like to know what you think. Do you think that if Patricia Riley was overwhelmed and had no help in caring for her son, that it should be a mitigating factor that the death penalty should be taken off the table?